Perfect. There we go. Thank you.
Cool.
Which was how he referred to it during the more troublesome parts. Uncertain whether or not it was a dream.
So there's going to be a video. Just make sure that everyone just make sure that your computer, your Zoom is on mute. It'll be on the bottom left-hand corner usually. And if you go to the chat, go to entheo.gigital and scroll down a little bit. There's a video which you can maximize, and it's about 2 minutes. And I'd like everyone to just watch that, and that'll give us a good starting place for the presentation. Just someone can just let me know when they're finished and start. Okay, cool. So I'll dig into the study that was done for my PhD dissertation. I guess part of the origin story of the company. It was done before the company was formed, and I did it. This study was a long-term study looking at psychological well-being, and this was during the height of the COVID lockdowns. So when people were experiencing unusually high levels of mental health problems, and particular depression, anxiety. And I won't go into the study a whole lot because there was a lot. It was a dissertation study, so there was a lot that went into it. Let's see. This is a VR headset that I'm wearing, and then on the left side is me in VR with a participant in the study. And this is, I recruited for the study while going into VR, different VR spaces and giving presentations, and leading mindfulness, and then talking about the study and saying, hey, would you like to be interested in participating in this? And we recruited 7 individuals, and the research question was simply, what is the experience of transformative process using Sound Self? Sound Self is the name of the software, and there was a qualitative element, meaning there was data that came about through our conversations, our group discussions, interviews, about what is the lived experience of doing Sound Self regularly for 6 weeks. And then the quantitative data or psychometric scales were used. People filled out surveys before starting the study, and then after the study completed after 6 weeks, and we're measuring the changes before and after. And both the purpose of the study and I guess for the company is that there's a looming mental health problem in modern society. Some people say it's just there's a lot of novel health, both physiological and mental health problems due to our nature of our modern society. And there's things that we can do to work with that and make our lives better. Psychedelics among them. In virtual reality and games really provide a novel approach that that can really be transformative for people, and surmount there's 2 major hurdles. One is that it's expensive to get mental health treatment, and oftentimes there's a stigma around getting treatment. So the majority of people who suffer from mental health problems will wait till their problems get very severe before seeking treatment. And there are other opportunities to learn skills, and such as mindfulness, yoga, but these are also take time commitments and it's not accessible to everyone immediately. But with VR, we can go directly to people's homes and in the convenience in their lifestyle to train in skills and mindfulness, and to work with serious mental health problems through the novel mechanisms of game design, such as biofeedback, which is what we're using in this software. So this is a participant in the study. They're doing vocal toning, that over and over again, and their voice generates audiovisual world. So it feels like you're creating your own sort of psychedelic journey. It requires a microphone and headphones as well. And most people have heard of virtual reality. It's becoming, people have heard of the metaverse, with Facebook changing their name to Meta. But it's still largely seen as like a gaming platform or maybe a social platform. Yet there's been 30 years of research into the transformative mental health applications of virtual reality, starting with research into PTSD with combat veterans as a form of exposure therapy, with the hypothesis that, okay, with virtual reality, we can transport people to a world, and we can design this world to specific parameters. So we can provide people with an experience of going back into, let's say, there was a study that looked into people that were experiencing PTSD symptoms after 9/11 in New York. And so they recreated a VR scenario in order for them to revisit, but in the safety and safety of the therapeutic alliance, uh, so that they can meet the sense of fear that arose in the body from a place of safety, and little by little meet those, challenge those, the way that or change the way that the body was responding. So there's been a variety of really interesting things in VR, but they haven't really made it into the marketplace yet. They've been kind of confined to research labs, but it's very, very interesting. There was everything from a study on retraining how offenders of domestic violence were could be trained in empathy, in order to kind of see what the consequences of their behaviors are, to looking at racial bias, when research created a world where a white person could inhabit a black female avatar and go about, and to kind of see and measure changes in racial bias before and after. A lot of mind-blowing stuff. And then there's kind of like the more psychedelic aspects of VR. There's a variety of applications exploring how people can experience the sense of awe and wonder, which is personally for me, that was my introduction to into psychedelics, is experiencing a sense of awe at a level that I don't think I had before, and that really informed my psycho-spiritual development after it. It wasn't a situation where it wasn't just about the awe, but it was about the awe and how it informed my whole psycho-spiritual world and how I saw meaning in my life. And this is an important thing in becoming. It's seen in, like, for example, I had a conversation the other day with a director of a palliative care hospital, where people at end of life are facing very high levels of anxiety, and we don't have our society hasn't developed the I guess the best ways to approach that, and people are exploring using VR applications to give people a sense of to experience awe and wonder, as a way to relieve anxiety, and to make meaning, and make meaning out of something that is not you can't rationally confront. So let's see. Skip ahead here. So the study is couched in transpersonal psychology. That was it's a psychology of studying what is human relationship to what's beyond, or what is in relationship between. So, like, relationship with human and nature, with humans and the universe or God. And it's transpersonal psychology has done a lot of work studying the psychedelic experience and altered states of consciousness. And this is Stan Groff, who is a major figure at my university at CIAS. And I really like how he had framed non-ordinary states as ways to access healing mechanisms that are oriented towards wholeness. And that's kind of really informs my mission, or I guess our company mission, is to how can we use technology to give people experiences that aren't giving. It's not a top-down thing where we're telling you what's best for you, but giving you an opportunity to engage in a practice that can so you can discover that healing wisdom inside yourself, that inner healer within yourself. So Like I mentioned earlier, this was a 6-week study that was done. People did it 3 to 4 times per week. They were journaling the whole time, engaging in critical reflection. We were also meeting weekly and talking about their experiences. We used a form of research called cooperative inquiry, which is a way to do research with people rather than on them. It really values each person's full human capacities to bring to in their own inquiry into experience, and a variety of psychometric scales. So most notably, we had statistical significance in mindfulness and well-being measured by the WHO-5. And also improvements in depression and anxiety, increase in mysticism. But even though it can be experience for some, that didn't seem to be like the defining factor of why it was transformative. And there was analysis done on all the qualitative data and brought together under 5 themes. These themes are meditation or mindfulness, flow or flow states, a theme around what is it like to be in VR, and why a VR, what specifically about the VR experience made it meaningful, and voice and body. Participants were encouraged to explore all ways of knowing, and I think it's informed by arts-based methods. And I think when approaching psychedelics, and both in the preparation and integration stages, these are useful tools. And essentially, the premise is, how can we encounter our story, our meaning-making capacity, and work with it in such a way that it's not cognicentric, meaning it's not just coming from the rational mind. So our rational mind, we might have a story, we might have one story, but the heart and our body, our sensual way of approaching the world, may have other stories. And by making art through this process of doing sound self regularly, they were able to express certain outcomes or what was happening in their life. So for one participant, they wrote a poem about how they were essentially learning mindfulness and learning about interoception, or the what is it like to listen in and feel into their inner world, their feelings and sensations, as part of this, that it's enabled by this software experience. So the main, I think, mechanism of sound self is that it uses the voice. That's kind of what sets it apart. It's a sort of voice activated biofeedback loop. And I'll just read one quote out loud. "The first thing I noticed with sound self, I was shocked to hear my voice so profoundly. I've never heard myself before like that. The chanting kept me centered and gave me something to focus on. It let me be a lot more in the moment and in the meditation in a way that I've never experienced before." So this is an anecdotal quote. So this is a piece of qualitative data, but now we're seeing in our studies that this is pointing to when neuroscience is called different things, but we call it cognitive flow, and it's a sense of being in the flow and not having intrusive thoughts come in. And this is something it's hard to achieve. It takes many years of mindfulness training, and in a modern busy world, it seems increasingly harder. But with a technology like this, we're hoping to give people an opportunity to directly access those type of states and let it inform it in whatever inquiry they have going on in their own psychospiritual life. So in taking all the quantitative and qualitative data, we're kind of assembling what are these therapeutic mechanisms of action. And something I really like this one. I have a sort of personal interest in Indian philosophy and in two forms of Indian philosophy. One is Advaita Vedanta, and another is Kashmir Shaiva Tantra. And both of these traditions have this concept of understanding a core self. And in psychology, in various psychological traditions, we're starting to explore that as well, internal family systems and others. But one of the things we saw in this study is that people were able to have a better self-concept. And when they were able to really relax while maintaining a sense of alertness. So typically when we get really, really relaxed, like when we fall and we're lying down, we fall asleep. But if we're really, really relaxed, but maintain a sense of alertness, there's an opportunity to explore the psychic images that come up, and to listen to them. And they could be, it's it's a subjective, it's a very personal experience. But when you're suffering from mental health issues, it can be very difficult to do that. And one of the things we're hoping that we can continue to develop Sound Self, this mechanism, is that people are able to just feel into a place of safety, and where their core they feel their core self is distinct from any other phenomena, psychological and emotional phenomena they may be experiencing, so that it's not shut down again. The idea is so we can bring things to consciousness, and process them and integrate them in a way that informs how we walk about life. I already mentioned cognitive flow. One curious thing about Sound Self, we call it biofeedback, because most people have heard of biofeedback, but it's also what another term called affective feedback, which has emerged in the human-computer interaction research world, and it's a way to kind of name this process of the software giving the user information about their own emotional world. So as the person is toning, the voice is such an intimate part of our personal experience. You hear your own voice within the application, as the voice is producing this psychedelic journey, this musical world and visual world. And it's a way to just be present with your own self, in a really interesting and curious way. And let's see, what should I? One of the things that we're talking about it a lot now is how we can improve the preparation and integration steps in psychedelic therapy. And what a Sound Self is uniquely good at is providing a psychedelic experience without taking a drug, or taking any plant medicine or anything. And this is really, as I talk to clinicians that are working within ketamine contexts, and as we move into as MDMA gets legalized and psilocybin, there's a lot of interest in how can we give people tools that they can learn mindfulness and learn skills of attention and absorption, being in a flow state, before they even go into a psychedelic experience, so that they make the most of it. And then after the psychedelic experience, it's something that they can revisit and deepen their embodied inquiry into any insights that emerged. So let's see, skip ahead to, so the current version of the product we're working on now, it uses light therapy, strobing glasses. It's right now it's cheaper and more effective for us to deploy this to clinics than the previous VR version. Although in about a year from now, we're going to have a standalone version for mobile VR. And what we're finding is that it benefits both the clinician and the client. So one, when someone is new to either psychotherapy or psychedelic experience, it's useful for them to experience an altered state of consciousness within a therapeutic container and feel out what that's like. It's almost like a mini psychedelic journey where there's a preparation phase where the guide comes in and speaking to you and asking you to feel into your body. Then you go on the journey, and then there's an integration period where you come back and integrating the experience. And for the therapist, it's very useful to, as fast as possible, to generate a rapport with the client, and as well as just get a sense of those ineffable ways of knowing and understanding what the client is going through. And so that what we're seeing is people do sound self and then have a therapy session. They're more able to just open up and feel safe going into the psychic material in which why they're there in their healing journey. And as a company, we're within psychedelic medicine right now, but we'd like to take this altered state software experience and make it FDA approved and to prescribable, so that people can do this for mental health conditions. And we're targeting conditions like anxiety and depression, as well as stress-related disorders, PTSD. But also looking at helping kids and teens with attention and emotional regulation, often diagnosed as ADHD when they have problems with that. And this is my team that I have the pleasure of working with. And we have some awesome advisors. Dr. Christopher Nicholas is a MAPS trainer, and he's working on some amazing studies at University of Wisconsin. And both Adam Ghazali and Laura Garcia are in the VR or games for mental health space. And yeah, let's see. I guess I'll speak a little bit more about preparation and integration. So the typical format that we're still developing guidelines for use, but the format that we're shooting for is that before, and this is within a ketamine context, most of our customers work with ketamine, although we have underground workers that are working with other substances. But for a person to do sound self 3 times, actually, I'll share. I'm hesitant to share this because I just made it today, but I haven't had my graphic designer work on it. But I'm going to do it anyway. It's let's see. So the idea is we can train people to have greater receptivity to the psychedelic experience with 3 sessions before and then 3 sessions after during integration to help with integration. The idea being that while these things like therapeutic alliance, your community are very important, what's of penultimate importance is the person's own story making or meaning making in their healing journey, and for them to realize that they are in a way in charge of their healing journey. And if we can successfully increase, there's a lot of interest right now to increase the durability of effect for ketamine, so that we have mystical experience and then we come down a little bit, but we're steady state. Day-to-day life is better than before. But we're seeing a tendency where people can go down, having to need another ketamine experience, and there's the threat of abuse. There's abuse potential with ketamine. So for a variety of reasons, we're trying to figure out if we can create the lowest dose ketamine using sound self as an adjunct to the ketamine-assisted psychotherapy process. Again, it's training and attention and absorption is one of the things we're seeing from previous studies as predicting better outcomes in with psychedelic therapy is people who score more for attention and absorption tend to benefit more. But so if we can train people in this before they go into psychedelic, the hypothesis is they can really maximize the benefits of the psychedelic experience. And I guess that's it. And I'm love to hear any thoughts or questions. And
questions.
Yeah.
So this is very cool. I'm interested to try it personally, but is it the glasses that you showed in the video? Is it more like a Lucia Light, or is it like a screen, like a VR application?
It's like a Lucia Light, except
Okay.
it's just instead of up here, it's kind of like right on. It's like glasses that have LEDs, and it's done with your eyes closed the whole time.
Okay. Is that in the intent for the finished product? You said you're working on a mobile application?
Yeah, this is, right now, this is the product that we're releasing into the marketplace. For the VR version, we're gonna have both styles of experience where eyes are open and eyes are closed.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of the Lucia Light because I find screens to be really intense, especially under the influence. Yeah, the other question I had, I guess, is that is if you have a VR application, would it be run through a traditional VR headset, or would it be run through a mobile phone, or would it be a standalone product?
It would be, when we release the VR version, it'll be on, we're going to port it to as many headsets as possible. So like the Quest, Pico. So it'll be available on like a commercially available headset. And the idea when we go to the FDA for if we get a designation such as treating anxiety, for example, a doctor will prescribe it and they can download it and have like use a key and have it be insurance reimbursable. Yeah.
Very cool. I love it. That's it for me.
I'm going to stay on the technical side for a minute, but if somebody else wants to jump in, I'm going to back off. So The glasses you're using are pretty, they're available today, that, you know, that it's not new technology, and they're effective. They're very effective in a therapeutic arena. And I really like what you're doing. The prep work, I think, is really a good mantra for people. I know a lot of practitioners won't even work with a client until they've taught them meditation or breath work or some a way to feel, so that they're tuned in when they go deep, and that they're able to work with them after. So I like what you're doing. It's very effective, but I'm a little bit confused about the audio playback. So with these glasses, are you suggesting there's still that audio sound feedback, which I thought was fantastic in the VR world?
Yeah. So our full setup, I'll share my screen again. Let's see. Okay. So we sell this core package, which has the audiovisual stimulation. So it's a glasses that LED glasses, stroboscopic glasses, and headphones. And so both of these plug into any computer, Mac or PC. A lot of our clinics tend to go with like that plus a vibroacoustic table or sound bed. These are all the hardware we use, or we work with external partners. The sound bed is made by In Harmony, and they make really, really good quality sound beds. Essentially, they're transducers or subwoofers in the bed, so it becomes much more of an embodied experience. Although it's supplemental, it's not necessarily, we've designed it to be a complete system. And so the headphones have a microphone on them, and as so as the person is toning, their voice is influencing both what they're hearing, and if they have vibroacoustics, what they're feeling as well, and also the visual field. So the visual field is designed to ramp from alpha into theta and end in low beta, so that we want the person to go into a deep experience. We want to meet them where they're at, go into a very deep state of consciousness, and then at the end be in a place of gentle relaxation. So yeah.
Did you have something? Were you gonna ask a question?
Yeah, I have a bunch. Sandeep, this is really interesting stuff. I guess the question is around differentiation, and I'm still trying to like formulate the question actually. Understand that each person's unique individual experience is what drives that differentiation, but I'm wondering on the technology side, how differentiation happens. To what extent does the technology deliver a unique experience for each individual?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the sort of what informs the design philosophy is this as idea is how can we make the experience as participatory as possible, and that the person feels like they're creating the experience. And that's largely due to the music system harmonizing with their voice. So whatever pitch they're at and other qualities of their voice, such as the timbre and the amplitude, will inform that musical world. And because the visual system, your eyes are closed and the brain is creating the visuals, it's different every time you do it. Yeah, so that's the primary mechanism, is to the voice, and the music system is harmonizing with it. So depending on the qualities of your voice at that particular time. The second is from the sort of affective feedback perspective of, it's a subjective experience that the person, so it's not necessarily that we're designing it and the person is, what am I trying to say? It is the experience, how it's assessed by the person is very subjective. It's a very deep personal experience that they are interpreting. So yeah.
Is there something about, sorry, follow-up question, is there something about the tone? So the tone that I'm trying to visualize exactly how the end-to-end process looks like. Sorry. So is there something about the tone, the note that you're trying to reach? Like, is there guidance around that, or is this simply for the user to just start intonating themselves?
It's for them to, that we're not guiding or pushing them towards any particular frequencies.
Yeah.
What we found is that people end up finding a rhythm, going into a rhythm of what is best for them at the time. So on one day, this one person could be at a particular place where they're maintaining maybe the same tone. On another day, they come in and perhaps they're more playful and are maybe experimenting more. They may even go into an approach where they're speaking words and sort of like stream of consciousness, or making sounds, or like or all sorts of things. And so once a person gets accustomed to it, usually after the third or fourth session, they are like, okay, they understand what the experience is about, and then it's an opportunity for it's more like an opportunity for self-inquiry, and yeah.
It's not as if the vagal nerve is activated or not activated by a specific note on the musical scale or anything like that. The research doesn't indicate that, right?
There is some more recent research on like low frequency, like vibration, and specific frequencies used to work with stress. Like there's a company called Apollo Neuro that's been researching that, where it's like they have a wearable which is delivering low frequencies in the form of like music, but you're feeling it. But for us, it's the main mechanism in terms of like the stimulating the vagus nerve is just using the voice and producing long exhalations. So we've designed the experience to encourage, as the person gets into a rhythm, relaxed inhalation and a long exhalation by toning. And so that's what we're finding is kind of the mechanism there to modulate, vagal tone.
Great, thank you.
I know we have a few minutes left, but I have a quick question or two. Is there a recommended time frame for the prep and integration sessions before and after? So, are you trying to hit those 3 integration sessions in a certain period of time? What are you suggesting around that?
Yeah, we're working this out. So right now we're in a clinical beta, and we're collecting a lot of data, and we're interviewing clinicians as they are experimenting with different ways of using it. And we hope to collaborate with them to produce, and so in collaboration with, say, for example, someone with a somatic background, we want to provide guidelines for use and how to use sound cell from a somatic approach. With a clinic that we have signed up in Florida, they're psychiatrists working with S-ketamine and IV ketamine, and we're working with them to what's the optimal schedule. My guess is that within, after a ketamine experience, it can even be done like the day of. Like we find it can be very useful to integrate back into the body. So after the experience is over, as a way to have a feeling of being grounded into the body. So it's right now we're not providing specifics around that, but we hope to in the future as we gather more data to provide protocols like that.
And then how long are the sessions?
So the first one we call story mode. It's a guide. It's longer. It's 40 minutes. It's so that if the guide comes in and gently teaches the person about vocal toning and mindfulness, and just through a exercise of listening and feeling into the body, relaxing. And then the person goes through the experience, and there's an integration, kind of like there's like a shavasana. If you've been in yoga class and done shavasana, like a quiet period to integrate and listen into what's emerging after the experience. And then there's a sort of like I don't know what to say, like something to wrap up the experience, is almost like a song. So that's influenced by in the ayahuasca tradition of like a healing song that you can either be taken passively or you can sing along with, as a way to just cap the experience of whatever happened, to cap it with, okay, let's have with this sort of sense of curiosity and playfulness. And then there's some other modes as well. So once the person has done it a few times, they might want to go straight into it without the guide coming, and they can, that's available there as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I guess one of the things I'll also mention is this has been useful for me in my own personal work. I recently went through an MDMA therapy journey, and during the experience, I was able to connect to a place of how to say it, like feeling like everything is okay. And this is very common with MDMA. It's something MDMA is very good at, and that's why it's such an amazing compound for PTSD. But and my therapist was working so how can you anchor it during the experience? Like, can you anchor that in your body? And I was feeling, okay, I can anchor it. But then life I got done. Life kept happening. Came back to my home, got back to work, this and that, and then I was like, oh yeah, I have Sound Self. I got to start integrating and revisit. So Sound Self was really awesome because after I did Sound Self, I was able to really put intention into feeling back into that, because it takes practice. It's one of those things that you feel like, oh, I had this great insight, now life is better, but it's something that, it's more of like this sort of embodied practice of being able to revisit that, and not just revisit it, but to revisit in a way to figure out how I can bring that sense of awareness, and from coming from a place of compassion, and in anything that else is emerging within my psychic world, into daily life. So because that's the real challenge there. That's what we're hoping we can provide with Sound Self, is just a place, it's a way that people can revisit that in integration. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, unless anybody has any other questions, I think we can start wrapping up, but I just wanted to check with everybody.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm definitely excited to see where Entheo Gigital grows and what's next. I feel like there's so many cool applications, and I could probably stay on the call for another 3 hours if I didn't have other commitments. And probably annoyingly pick your brain, but yeah, I hope to get to know you a little bit better. But thank you so much for taking the time and talking to our group.
Yeah, I really appreciate I love being here, and love meeting you all. And I'll put my contact here. Feel free to reach out anytime. And yeah, looking forward to meeting everyone and in person at the meetups. And from what it looks like, y'all got some amazing things going on. So looking forward to being part of this community you got going.
Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for coming. And see you soon.
Thank you.
All right.